Hello and welcome to the programme, and tonight on Motor Week we're going from one extreme to another. In a short while Glenda drives the new luxurious Lexus, the RX300, but before that I check out the Citroen bargain basement offering, the Multispace, the car that started life as a van that thinks it's a car. It's not always the case that you want supermodel good looks in cars, buildings or whatever. Sometimes when form follows function, the results can have a kind of beauty of their own just because they work. But then sometimes practicality doesn't always result in beauty. Sometimes it's a bit of an ugly duckling. The Citroen Berlingo Multispace. It sure ain't pretty, is it? It's actually a car based on a van that was built to have car-like qualities, if you see what I mean. But don't let the word van frighten you, there are some nice touches in here. The nicest of which is this, a full-length canvas sunroof. Practically open-top motoring. It will cost you, as an extra it's about 450 quid, though on this one it was actually included in the price. So you might be able to negotiate it at your local Citroen dealer. And that brings us on to the car's biggest feature, or in a way its smallest feature, the price. 9,495 quid, which I reckon makes it amazing value. Okay, for that money what could you get as a mini hatch? Possibly a VW Polo 1.4, which is going to look better and drive better, but if you need space, it would have to be this. Unless you've got another 4 grand, then you could get a mini MPV and have both. Certainly, apart from the dimensions, there's very little van-like about it inside. It's very much a car interior. I do like this blue spread out all over the place. And you get everything you need. Electric windows, remote adjustable mirrors. Even the driving position is pretty car-like. You see, it's like this. You don't always want to be wearing your nice, best, fancy leather jacket. Might look good, but it's not going to be any good if it's raining and cold and wet. What you want then is a nice big comfy anorak, which may not look as good, but put it this way. If you're halfway up a mountain and it's freezing cold, this is going to be beautiful. And this is the automotive equivalent of a big comfy anorak. Believe me, loaded with useful features such as sliding doors. Try that in a supermarket car park. Great access, you don't bash the car next to you. Useful. You see, oh, let me lose this thing. You can have your little sports cars and hatches and that's great, but when do you find in those this kind of space? You could fit a hatchback in here. And it doesn't stop there either, because it's not just the width and the depth, it's the height. You can get all your possessions in. It increases. You see, it's not difficult to give yourself a colossal amount of space. We're talking back to a van. Huge! You see, this is where its van origins really start to pay off. Ask any van driver and you'll be told what you need is a flat load space and a high roof, and you've got both. I mean, if what you really wanted was a beautiful, pretty little car, you wouldn't even be considering one of these. But if what you needed was space, practicality and, well, frankly, incredible value for money, then this, to you, would have a kind of beauty, which just goes to show beauty really is more than skin deep.
Now, once upon a time, all you wanted a car for was to get you from A to B. And then you wanted them to go faster. And then you wanted them to go off-road. And now it seems you want them to look as if they can go off-road without even actually doing it. And that means the SUV vehicle, or the sports utility vehicle, an off-road rugged look, but with a performance that's best suited to the road. This is the latest SUV to hit the UK market. It's the Lexus RX300, and before I give it a drive, I best find my trainers. The American version of this vehicle has been available for about 2 years now and is the best-selling Lexus and the best-selling SUV in the whole of the USA. It's now available in Europe with revised suspension and braking to cope with our more demanding driving conditions. And it can be yours for between £28,000 to £32,000, depending on which model you go for. Now, the first thing you notice when you get in this car is the noise. Take a listen to this. Absolutely nothing. That's fantastic, especially for a big vehicle like this. It lets you know that it's wearing that Lexus badge for a reason. Another thing that Lexus are renowned for is offering a high level of spec for standard. This is the SE model, and let's take a look at what it's got. It's got these lovely 8-point adjustable leather electric seats. We've got alloy wheels, air conditioning, automatic transmission. We've got cruise control. We like the satellite navigation system, although that is an extra. We've got a 6-stack CD player. We've got a whole host of gadgetry under that bonnet to keep you going in a straight line. Now, for some of you, it'll be a disappointment that this is only available in a V6. It certainly hasn't got as much grunt as the Cherokee's V8, but it's very smooth. And on the school run, it'll give you better fuel economy. First to the on-road capabilities, it is so smooth, and in terms of body roll, it is the best SUV vehicle I've ever driven. I also prefer this higher driving position to the rivals, the Volvo Cross Country and the Audi Allroader. Makes me feel more important. And now for the off-road bit. Well, the scenery around here is really pretty rugged, but as for the road that Lexus actually want us to drive on, well, you're more likely to see Clint Eastwood and the Magnificent Seven than any serious off-road action. You know, I really have enjoyed driving the Lexus RX300, even if we didn't go proper off-roading. And I reckon that it's going to give the Mercedes M-Class and the Jeep Cherokee a really good run for the money. And now, from me, here in lovely sunny Spain, there's only one thing left to do. Go look for my trainers. I never did find them, you know.
Join us after the break on Motor Week when Ian Royle winds back the clock to take a look at some second-hand offerings.
There are some things in life that are just downright annoying. People that turn up late, burnt toast, running out of toilet paper, and the fact that the Honda S2000 is a listless lump of metal until you hit 7,000 RPM. The Honda S2000 is an interesting proposition simply because it redlines at 9,000 RPM, which sounds an absolute hoot in theory, but in practice has its drawbacks. You see, there aren't too many roads in our country that lets you fully appreciate the wonderful 6-speed gearbox or really get the most out of the naturally aspirated engine that pumps out 237 brake horsepower and can hit 60 in just under 6 seconds. And that's such a shame. You see, at law-abiding speeds, the Honda's engine feels motorcycle-like. Below 7,000 RPM, it actually feels, well, not unlike an MX-5. Those thrills that it promises really don't materialise. And while the engine does sound fantastic, it seems a pity that Honda's engineers haven't paid closer attention to the chassis and the steering. You can't put a finger on any particular fault. It's just that the whole dynamic performance leaves you a little wanting and wondering exactly what could have been. The first thing you notice about the interior is this Formula One style instrument panel that goes up to 9,000 revs. Apart from that, it's really a very Spartan affair in here. But that's okay, because it means nothing gets in the way of the driving, which is what this car is all about. These snazzy red seats hold you in nice and tight, and there's a good deep seating position that makes you feel as if you're in a cockpit. That's enhanced by the high sides to the doors, the steering wheel, and this lovely little button that helps you start the engine. The hood is triggered by the flick of a button, and 6 seconds is all it takes to raise or drop. Perfect for our British summertime. The S2000 was born out of the SSM concept that was unveiled at the '95 Tokyo Motor Show, and it's truly stunning with its long bonnet and sharp line styling, a fitting birthday present from Honda to itself. The thing about a great sports car is that it should turn you on the minute you climb aboard and get better from that point on, whatever speed you might be doing. And the problem with the S2000 is that you have to thrash it well beyond the speed limit to truly appreciate what it's capable of. And at £28,500, it seems like an awful lot of money just to lose your licence.
I think that one of the underrated cars about these days is produced by the Swedes. It's well built, it's solid, it's reliable, it offers excellent safety for its occupants, and for me is a bit of a bargain. I'm talking about this, the Saab 900. Now, whilst the name Saab may not quite have the cachet that certain German manufacturers like BMW and Mercedes have, it is a highly desirable car to own. It's favoured by the professional types, doctors, lawyers and barristers and the like. And once someone owns a Saab, they tend to remain very loyal to the brand. This version of the 900 was introduced in 1993 and ran through until 1998 when it was replaced by the remarkably similar 93. Now, we tend to think of Saabs as being big barges with huge bumpers, and indeed they were before this particular model came along. But I think of this car as a bit of a secret in motoring. It offers comfortable and roomy accommodation for quite easily 5 people, plus you get an absolutely enormous boot. And it has a badge that says, well, I'm a little bit different, and I don't drive a Ford or a Vauxhall. When the 900 was launched, it was one of the safest cars around, having gone through 19 different types of crash test. ABS brakes and twin airbags are standard issue too. Now, this model is the base 900, so standard are electric front windows, power steering, you get an adjustable steering column too, a radio cassette player, and in the back, 3 3-point seat belts, which many manufacturers weren't fitting as standard on cars of this sort of age. Missing from this model, which would be useful, are either a sunroof or air conditioning, but air conditioning did become standard on all models in late 1997. Plus, you get Saab's rather quirky ignition mounted in the centre column. Running costs are quite reasonable on the 900. You're looking at just insurance group 10 for this 2-litre model, and fuel economy again is quite good. You should average out about mid to late 20s to the gallon, and cruising on the motorway should get you back over 30. So, what about prices? What do you have to pay for a quality Swedish motor? Well, surprisingly little. 6 months ago, we picked up this 900 from a main dealer with full Saab history and one owner for less than £9,000, which is a lot of car for the money, and with just 20,000 miles on the clock. Now, Saab have changed their new car prices this year, and that has had some effect on used values as well, but not too much. We looked around through the main dealers and the private ads, and we found, for instance, a 95 M Reg 2-litre like this for less than £5,000, We also found one of the last 900s, a 2.3 XS, for under £9,000. There was also a 96N 2-litre turbo Sensonic for about £7,000. Now, the Sensonic was quite an interesting idea developed by Saab, which used a conventional manual gearbox without a clutch. Unfortunately, it never took off, and those cars are actually quite rare now. So, all in all, I reckon the Saab 900 to be one classy motor. It's well built, and it's certainly more desirable than many mass-produced cars. And if you find a well cared for example, it'll go on for tens and tens of thousands of miles without too much bother. So, this week I give you my used car tip, the Saab 900.
Do you ever feel drowsy driving? Of course we all do. Under pressure of work or delayed by jams, journeys are getting longer and more stressful. But the dangers of dozing at the wheel have been focused on at the UK's biggest conference on the subject. Here at Loughborough University, a team using various simulators have been conducting research into the causes of driver sleepiness and effective solutions for those drivers who won't or can't pull over and get some sleep.
People who fall asleep at the wheel always go through a period of increasing sleepiness beforehand, of which they're fully aware. And when you get to this state of particularly fighting sleep, like running down the windows, singing a song, turning up the radio, that's a time to stop, get off the road and take a break. In this study, which is the first of its kind, we looked at the effectiveness of a functional energy drink in young adults, and we looked at them in the laboratory because it's safer to do it in the laboratory than on the road. And they were made a bit more sleepy because they had less sleep the night before. And during the course of an afternoon drive in our simulator, we looked at the effectiveness of 1 versus 2 cans of an energy drink. And we found that 1 can was effective in reducing sleepiness for about an hour.
But when is the most likely time for drivers to doze off?
Driver drowsiness is more common at certain times of the day, particularly in the dead of night, about 4 to 6 o'clock in the morning, and again in the middle of the afternoon. This is because we have a natural clock in our bodies telling us when to be awake, when to be asleep, and these are the low points. And indeed, these are the times when most of these sorts of accidents occur. Driver
sleepiness is a very serious issue, and we think now that it accounts for probably 1 in 5 deaths on the road, on motorways and A-class roads. We also find that particular groups are at risk. Young men, those people aged under 30, and they're at risk. They tend to drive late into the night and also get up early and drive in the morning. And we find other occupational groups can be risky, such as nurses, cabin crew, HGV drivers, shift workers and journalists.
It's true that vehicles are safer than ever before, but also the interiors are so well designed and comfortable they could actually be conducive to driver sleepiness. This, plus increasing work pressure, means that sleeping at the wheel will be an even more important subject as time goes on.
As off-roaders continue to grow in popularity, so they're increasing in diversity. So now they're certainly not all big macho mountain munchers. We've got lightweight soft roaders, we've got estate car hybrids like this Subaru Legacy. But the one thing they do all have in common is we don't really expect them to be particularly economical. Generally, they're unaerodynamic, they're thirsty and bigger than they need to be, the pinnacle of motoring excess. What else could explain the existence of cars like the Range Rover and the Toyota Amazon? We love them big, brash and above all, expensively badged. Heck, we'll soon be able to buy BMW, Mercedes, Lexus and even Porsche off-roaders. There is, however, an alternative. Didn't you spot that coming? At least that's what these people at Tata would have us believe. Tata are another of these companies that we've never heard of over here, but are very big over there. In this case, over there being India, where they churn out bucket loads of rugged commercial vehicles. But now they've turned their attention to private vehicles, 4x4s, with this, new to these shores, the Safari. And they reckon it's going to offer us proper heavyweight off-roader for lightweight bucks. Now, budget-priced off-roaders, or budget cars of any sort, don't usually boast a nice interior. Generally, they seem to overcompensate by making it garish and hideous. So, it's not bad, actually. I mean, it ain't beautiful, but I suspect it all works, and it'll probably last. They have saved a few quid on the beeper that tells you you've left your keys in, though. tiny voice for a big car. Fairly embarrassing. And once on board, we could sit here and play spot the parts and where they come from, because they've rated parts bins all over the place for the switchgear. So this is from a Rover and, well, that would be boring, wouldn't it? And Anarakish. So we won't play that game. It's got all the kit on board here, so on paper anyway, it should be able to tackle just about anything. We've got high and low ratio four-wheel drive, and it's switchable between four and two-wheel drive on the fly, as they say, which means on the move, up to about 40-45 miles an hour with this little switch down here. Then it's got automatic freewheeling and locking hubs, which lock and freewheel automatically, which is great and really important off-road, apparently. And it's huge! I can see 3 counties from here. It's massive, which I suppose is comforting off-road and quite handy on the road. And let's face it, on-road is where most off-roaders spend their time. Performance is hardly sparkling, but it will romp happily to 60 miles an hour. I just wouldn't want to put a time on it. As well as off-road equipment, there's all the goodies you need to keep you happy inside too. There's electrically adjustable door mirrors and windows, air conditioning, and even, in the enormous boot, an extra 2 seats, meaning the Safari can carry 7. Let's face it, the image conscious are never going to buy it. In fact, they'll avoid it like the plague in a flat cap. But if it can't sell itself on a prestigious badge, it might just sell itself by offering value for money and real off-road ability. In which case, farmers and those who really need off-road performance and perhaps a big cheap car may be saying ta-ta to their expensive Range Rovers and Discoveries. Get it? Ta-ta. Never mind. That's it for this week, but join us next week for the big one, the new Subaru Impreza. Boy, and it better be good.